especially because we have some DC power technology in action. The fans you see up in the top of the ceiling there are actually running on 24 volts DC, just like these lights are. About 3 years ago, we were introduced to Armstrong World Industries, who's the largest manufacturer of suspended ceiling systems, like this drop ceiling here. The ones you have in your school or in your office or in your rec room, 80% of the time they're built by Armstrong. They're based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they manufacture over 1 billion square feet of ceilings a year. They dominate the ceiling market the way Microsoft dominates software. So we were introduced to them about 3 years ago through our friends at Philips Lighting, a division of Philips Electronics, the big Dutch giant. And they introduced us because they knew that Armstrong was working on a new power distribution strategy where they would actually bus the power around on the metal grid of the ceiling. So instead of having conduit and wires up there between the ceiling and the deck, you would instead bus around Class 2 DC power on the metal grid of the ceiling. So if you look closely, that cross member there that's got the little baby spot plugged into it in the bottom, that has got power distributed on both the top and the bottom. So in the bolt slot there, you can use it as track lighting. And if you look up on top, there are conductors on the outside of the metal bar that provide a path for the power that we supply to go running around the ceiling. Well, why would you want to do that? I have an answer. Armstrong had done all the market research that told them that if they put Class 2 power, which is below 100 volt amps, it means it's below the shock hazard, below the startle hazard. If you were running that around the ceiling, then you could design your light fixtures and your ceiling fans and your baby spots all to be able to be infinitely reconfigurable. So if I wanted to move that light fixture to another square, I just pop it out and drop it in someplace else. If I want to put an occupancy sensor or a daylight sensor or a ceiling fan or one of these panels here is a speaker that we stream our iTunes through after 5 o'clock. So we've got a whole plane here that's turned into a, we think of it as like a back plane for whatever you want to do in the ceiling distribution. Now this was a dream come true for us because we've been running around talking about DC power systems for a decade like Lear on the Heath, not getting all the traction we might want. But here Armstrong had gone out on this idea of reconfigurability and said that's a product we want to go to market with. Then we got together with them and said, hey, if you specify our power supply, which is the triangular box in the middle, then you can bolt on to your reconfigurability story the whole green, renewable, sustainable phenomenon. We can bring solar power from the roof into these loads in the ceiling at something like 99% efficiency, which is otherwise impossible. Yeah.
What about a fire hazard from sparking or anything?
Below the shock and startle hazard. So there is, it can't do that. I could have my 3-year-old play with that electrical bus. It's just like the thing that holds your electric toothbrush. It's current limited and UL listed to a bunch of standards that means we won't create fires or shock you or startle you. In fact, the #1 killer of electricians, it turns out, is getting shocked working on a hot lighting system or being surprised by a shock, even if it's not enough to kill you. Turns out you're likely to die if you get surprised that way on the top of a ladder 20 feet off the ground. So one of the reasons why we've had a good reception from Underwriters Laboratories, who are the safety folks, is that these systems will actually save people's lives.